if you take a sentence, let me see, for example, I lived in Nice for 33 years. All right, or I have been living in Nice for 33 years. Okay, so, and the language students are about to work on, I have been, right? I have been doing this. And so in the sentence, Nice is completely automatic because in French it's Nice, and 33 years, I might have a problem with but I don't have a problem actually knowing that the word I'm supposed to be saying is three. Right, so I might be at stage 2 for the pronunciation of the th, but stage 3 for the use of the word three, or stage 4 even, and then stage 1, 4. I have been living, because this is new. It just happened, and it was an awareness that, oh, I'm going to have to do what's necessary to find out how this works, so that even within one sentence and even within one word, you can have aspects of which are at the aspect which is the problem for now, which is at stage 1, various levels of stage 2. That's to say, I'm still working on these things, but they're more or less settling in, and then some stage 3, because they're completely automatic. I've been saying the word I for so long in that's now automatic completely. Nice is automatic, no problem at all, etc., etc. So that even within one sentence and one person, you could have all these different things working together. And as a teacher, I can be sensitive to the fact that the student is juggling all these, and that I can't expect the same level of performance on words like 33 for my French students who don't have a th in the language as I can for the word Nice. I expect that to be perfect, and it usually is. So that I have to be sensitive. Sorry. I have to be sensitive to where they're at in each of the aspects of this sentence. And it's not the same for all the people in the class, of course.
That makes it really concrete.
Yeah, and I think it's important. It's important to just make the connection, or sort of tie in what we've been saying in another way. What Ros is saying there is that by recognizing where her student is in terms of these stages of learning, she will then intervene more correctly. So by understanding that the mistake he's made is because he's in this step, and the kind of thing, if he's in this stage of learning, the sort of thing he needs to do next is perhaps more exploration or more consolidation or whatever else it is he's trying to do. Now, the important thing about all this is that we luckily, the example of Rebecca Hansen telling me about 2 types of division came up earlier on, and the fact that 3 weeks later I'd done enough work in it that became mine, and I could then see that for myself in the situation. When we're talking now about the stages of learning, there are other models where you have steps of learning or stages of learning, so 3-step models, 5-step models, or whatever. The important thing is that we as teachers start looking at ourselves and start noticing when we're learning things, is this what's happening to us in ourselves? So the point of what Roslyn and I are saying now is not that we expect anybody to agree or disagree, but there is a field to look at there. And if you're a teacher, examine your learning and notice how present you are to your learning. You'll discover that there are times when you know you have to be very present to the learning, and we can call that step 2. And there are times when you're partly present to the learning and partly present to other things, and that will be stage 3. And when you discover that, yes, my presence is involved in my learning in different ways, you will then, when you discover this for yourself, you will then start seeing it in your students, and then you will start teaching and intervening more effectively with your students than you would before you'd understood this experientially for yourself and therefore seen it in your students.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And there are things too, if I know that a student is experimenting, well, then I have ways of working with that student to help the experimentation. If somebody or other, if I'm aware that somebody is making automatic some aspect of it and it isn't right, then I have to very quickly bring it back to stage 2. There's more work needed in stage 2, because if I let them make something automatic that isn't correct, that is letting them fossilize a mistake. And that is straight out bad teaching. Fossilized mistakes are the result of bad teaching. It's the result of a teacher letting a student install something as correct when it wasn't. And that is just absolutely unacceptable. That's going against conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom says we don't want to embarrass students. We don't want them to feel upset because whatever. Ridiculous. Students want to learn the language. They don't want to learn some jargon, some horrible mishmash, which will say, yes, the message will get across, but that's not what we're trying to do. They want to learn the language, right? They don't want just to, would you ever go into a language class if the teacher said to you before you started, what you learn is going to be mediocre?
It's kind of another session altogether that would be fascinating to go into, because I was thinking about a lot of other questions to ask on that front, especially also the I think what you're describing is because you are very present to your learners and to the learning situation, and you create a very safe social and emotional environment that is completely necessary for learners to be able to make mistake and iterate and fail forwards. If they're able to do this, then that's totally normal. Everybody's learning like this in our classroom, but unfortunately it's not something that all teachers or all classrooms are used to. And also in the
language classroom, you have to have techniques to deal with this kind of thing, and we have techniques.